Chris Paul and Stephen Curry, two of the greatest point guards of our generation, and no doubt two of the greatest basketball players to ever play. But before they were ever made teammates, they had one of the longest standing rivalries, dating back to over a decade ago. But also before they were ever rivals, they were also good friends. Here's how Chris Paul and Steph Curry went from rivals to teammates. Before Steph Curry was ever in the league, he's mentioned that Chris Paul was a mentor for him coming out of college. The two growing up from North Carolina definitely played a part in their relationship building.
Me and him going way back to North Carolina days, and him kind of being my mentor when I was coming out of college and being able to work out with him and learn the ropes. So
after Curry was drafted with the 7th pick in the 2009 NBA draft, to help prepare himself for the league, he spent the entire summer with Chris Paul and his family. From attending Chris Paul's summer camp to going to Disney World together, these two built a mentor and mentee relationship. Curry often credits Paul for showing him how to navigate the league in his rookie year.
Went to Disney World in Orlando. My wife, little Chris, my parents, everybody. And Steph went with us. Steph went to Disney World with us, and we worked out and all that. So our relationship was always cool, and just like...
Along with spending the summer together, Chris and Steph also shared the same resources. They were under the same agency and had the same financial advisor. And they went to each other's weddings. At the time of the camp, Paul was coming off a left knee injury, but was regarded as one of the best players in the league, finishing top 2 in MVP voting in 2008 and top 5 in 2009. He was also top 10 in Defensive Player of the Year award votes in 2008 and 9. And he also led the league in assists per game in back-to-back years. From Steph's rookie year to 2011, their relationship remained in good standing. Paul was constantly encouraging Curry during the rough stretches of him dealing with ankle injuries. In 2011, the NBA had a lockout, so the regular season didn't start until Christmas Day. But 17 days before the start of the season, Chris Paul was traded to the Los Angeles Lakers to join Kobe Bryant, until that trade was dismissed. 6 days later, Paul would be traded to Los Angeles, but this time to play with the Clippers. Paul would join Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan to be direct division rivals with Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. And the first matchup between those two teams that season would then be facing off against each other on Christmas Day. Paul's impact on the Clippers was instant, as he led them back to the playoffs for the first time in 6 years, while Curry, still dealing with injuries, had his season cut short due to having surgery on his right ankle. He played just 26 out of 66 games available that season. Steph was healthy and able to lead the Warriors to their first winning record and playoff appearance in 5 years. The Warriors went on to reach the semifinals of the playoffs, but lost to the San Antonio Spurs, while Chris Paul led the Clippers to the franchise's first 50-plus win season, but they'd underachieved in the postseason, losing to the Memphis Grizzlies in 6 games. The Warriors won the season series that year, 3-1. At the end of the 2014 season, Chris Paul led the Clippers to a 57-win year and ended as the 3rd seed in the Western Conference, while Curry led the Warriors to their first 50-plus win season since 1994, and they'd finish as the 6th seed, which sets up a round 1 matchup between the Warriors and the Clippers. The season series was split at 2 games apiece, and throughout the course of the year, the two teams had multiple scuffles.
Jordan on this little move going in.
Griffin with the rebound is 14. Now Barnes, too strong.
Oh, here we go.
Bogut and Griffin getting into it. DeAndre Jordan steps in. The officials have to set.
Chris Paul says it was this series that really changed the dynamic of him and Steph's relationship.
Once we got in that playoff series, you know what it was. It just sort of slowly started building. That rivalry started building or whatnot, and it was what it was.
Game 1 was relatively close for the majority of the game. The turning point was when the Warriors went on a 14-6 run to end the 3rd quarter with an 8-point lead.
Nearly banks it in. Beautiful interior passing by the Warriors. Curry to steal the 3. Off the side of the rim.
But big buckets by Chris Paul got the Clippers back into the game.
Paul, a 3-pointer. It's good. Paul for 3. Bang! Tie game.
And they had a 1-point lead with under 2 minutes remaining. Then Harrison Barnes made the play of the game.
Knocked loose by Barnes, and Thompson picks it up. What a fabulous defensive play. Now Barnes the 3. That's good. Harrison.
And 2 straight free throws missed secured the win for the Warriors.
Puts up a 3 trying to draw the foul.
Klay Thompson led them with 22 points, while Curry struggled as he finished with just 14 points on 6 of 16 shooting from the field, along with 7 turnovers. Chris Paul led the Clippers with 28 points, 7 rebounds, and 8 assists, along with 4 steals. Blake Griffin barely played this game because he was in foul trouble. Game 2 was a blowout, a 40-point win by the Clippers in a game where the Warriors never led. Curry played much better in this one, scoring 20 of his 24 points in the third quarter, but the 35 points by Blake Griffin was too much to overcome. Chris Paul finished with just 12 points and 10 assists, as tension between these two teams began to rise even more.
Two big bodies, and when look out, double technical.
Game 3 was a close one, until the Clippers built an 18-point lead in the third quarter. The Warriors could not handle Blake Griffin, who finished with 32 points and 8 rebounds, or DeAndre Jordan, who had 14 points and 22 rebounds. The Warriors fought to make it a close game, and 2 clutch threes by Curry made it a 1-point game with 11 seconds remaining.
Lead back to Steph, a 3.
Chris Paul tries to draw a 3-point foul and almost gets to the go, but the refs deem it a foul on the floor. Chris Paul again misses a late free throw and gives Curry a chance to win the game.
Defended by Paul, a 3.
Curry misses, and the Clippers win in Golden State for the first time since Christmas Day in 2011, the first matchup between the two players. After the game, Curry claims he was fouled, answering 100% to a question asking if he was fouled. "I knew I got hit on the body. That's why I was off balance. That's my go-to move is a step back. I don't shoot air balls very often." Thompson led the Warriors with 26 points, while Curry finished with 16 points on 5 of 12 shooting from the field, but finished with a playoff career-high 15 assists. Paul also struggled. Despite playing with an 100-degree fever, he finished with 15 points and 10 assists on 5 of 13 shooting from the field. Game 4 was a weird one for both teams. About 24 hours before the game, audio of Clippers owner Donald Sterling was posted of him saying racist remarks. The Clippers protested these actions by wearing their shirts inside out, which led other teams to do the same. The game just felt different for the players, said by JJ Redick, who played for the Clippers.
That, from game 4 on of that series, I don't remember there being that amount of media people on the sidelines pregame, that amount of media attention on us. Like it was a circus.
The situation was so off-putting, players weren't sure if they were even going to play in this game.
And 2 hours before the game, we weren't sure if we were going to play. Like, guys were still talking about, I remember hearing we're going to go to half court, shake each other's hand and walk off the court. I remember,
Jump ball, opening tip, everybody walks out.
Walk off the court.
But the game does go on, and Steph Curry had his best game of the series, making his first 5 threes and helping the Warriors build a 20-point lead in the first quarter. From there, the Warriors dominated, while the Clippers would try their best to get back into the game, but the Warriors kept responding and tied the series at 2 games apiece. Curry had the game-high 33 points, along with 7 rebounds and 7 assists on 50% shooting from the field. Chris Paul finished with just 16 points and 6 assists. The Clippers were clearly affected by their owner's actions. After the game, JJ Redick said, "Maybe our focus wasn't in the right place," would be the easiest way to say it. And Doc Rivers admitted after the game that he didn't do enough to get the team ready to play. Before Game 5, Commissioner Adam Silver banned Clippers owner Donald Sterling for life and fined him $2.5 million, and also called on other NBA owners to force him to sell the team. The news of the punishment gave a morale boost to the team as they won 113-103 and took a 3-2 series lead. DeAndre Jordan led the Clippers with 25 points and 8 rebounds along with 4 blocks, while Chris Paul had 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists with 5 steals. Klay Thompson again led the Warriors with 21 points, while Curry had 17 points along with 8 turnovers. Game 6 was a close one the whole way through. With the Warriors up 7 with 2 minutes and 31 seconds remaining, they would foul Blake Griffin out of the game in the fourth quarter. Blake had a rough night, ending with just 17 points on 8 of 23 field goal shooting. Despite not playing with their leading scorer, the Clippers were able to make it a 2-point game with under 2 minutes left to play. Then, JJ Redick fouls out with 55 seconds left to play. Harrison Barnes hits both free throws and makes it a 4-point game. With 17 seconds remaining, this hectic possession takes place.
In the corner, Collison. That's no good. Offensive rebound, Barnes. Down to 3. Down to 2. The 3. Good!
And it ends with Matt Barnes hitting a 3 with 2 seconds remaining. The Clippers foul Curry with under half a second remaining in the game. Curry surprisingly misses the first one and misses the second one on purpose to end the game. The Warriors tie the series 3-3, with Curry leading them with 24 points and 9 assists. Chris Paul finished with just 9 points and 8 assists on 3 of 10 shooting. The Warriors took control of Game 7 early and a majority of the first half thanks to Steph Curry and Draymond, but the Clippers took back control in the second half. By the beginning of the fourth quarter, the Clippers would have a 3-point lead, but their lead would quickly be erased due to the 8 quick points scored by Jordan Crawford.
Just kind of hucks things up, doesn't it? Here's a 3 by Jordan Crawford. Wow.
But the Clippers regained the lead thanks to Matt Barnes and built a 7-point lead thanks to the back-to-back buckets made by Chris Paul. The Warriors, as always, responded by taking back the lead with under 5 seconds left. The two teams traded baskets until this lob was finished by Griffin, and this and-one basket gave him a 5-point lead with 56 seconds remaining. Draymond and Curry tried their best to keep it close.
Wow, that's huge. It's a 3, and he gets it.
But the Clippers go on to win the game and win the series. Chris Paul goes up 1-0 against Curry in playoff matchups. The Clippers would go on to face the Thunder in the second round. In Game 5 in a 2-2 series, the Clippers had a 7-point lead with under 40 seconds remaining to take a 3-2 series lead. Chris Paul commits the biggest mistake of the game, a turnover to Durant. Then he fouls Westbrook on a 3-point attempt,
Down by 2, Westbrook for the lead.
which Westbrook makes all 3 to take the lead.
Oklahoma City. This for the lead.
And on the final possession, he turns the ball over and the Clippers go on to lose the game and lose the series. Throughout the 2015 season, Curry dominated the league and led the Warriors to their first 60-plus win season in franchise history. He went on to win his first MVP trophy, and heading into the playoffs, the Warriors would be the first seed. The Clippers finished with the 56-26 record and finished as the 3rd seed, and the Warriors won the season series against the Clippers 3-1. And in the process, Curry would cook Paul and the Clippers throughout the season. Seriously, there's a whole article written of Curry just cooking him. Draymond credits this game where the Warriors really started to become a better team than the Clippers.
I think the game for us was actually Clippers at the Clippers. And it's the game that Steph dropped CP on the baseline, where he went double behind the back, CP fell, and he hit the jumper. Because the Clippers were the next team up. Like, they were the next team up out of the West to take things over. And that game right there was the one where it was like, oh yeah, this is serious. Like, I think for us, that was the game where you knew we got a chance to be really good and things were flipping for us.
The Clippers made it to the second round of the playoffs that year, where they'd face James Harden and the Houston Rockets. They had a 3-1 lead by the end of Game 4 and were looking to make their first conference finals appearance in franchise history, and they blew it. James Harden led the Rockets to a comeback in the series, and they advanced to the Western Conference Finals. Their opponents would be the Warriors, who would defeat them in 5 games to reach the NBA Finals to face against the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs dealing with injuries to key players was massive, but the Warriors went on to win the team's first championship in 40 years. In November of the 2016 season, Draymond revealed a big motivator of Curry's was to be better than Chris Paul. And in 2024, Draymond revealed that he wanted to put a rift in the two's relationship so it wouldn't hinder their competitiveness when it came to their matchup.
And so I learned through the grapevine that CP and Steph are close. Yeah, they saying these dudes is the next young dudes out the West. I got to figure out how to change this relationship if I can, because what I learned is, you know, y'all both growing up in North Carolina, families knew each other, y'all knew each other, had a really good relationship. And so you come in young, dumb, and I'm like, oh, CP is going to definitely use knowing him and being the big homie against him. Let me see how I can get in between this and cause some arguments and break this shit up.
That year, the Warriors went on to win the season series 4-0, as Curry went on to become the league's first and only unanimous MVP on their way back to the NBA Finals, where they would blow a 3-1 lead to the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Clippers, on the other hand, faced the Portland Trail Blazers in round 1, where they would have a 2-1 series lead entering Game 4. In the fourth quarter of the game, Chris Paul would leave the game earlier for broken hand.
He slaps with the left hand, but it's not the left hand he hurts, it's the right hand right here. It's Henderson.
Me and Kenny were talking about that, Ernie. Got caught in that jersey. Yeah. And Kenny said it happened to him twice in his career. Twice in the same year, my rookie year.
And you broke your hand?
I broke my metatarsal right here, my ring finger.
One quarter later, Blake Griffin also left the game early with an aggravated left quad. Both players missed the remaining of the games in the series, and the Clippers lost in 6 games. More of the same happened in 2017. The Warriors swept the season series against the Clippers 4-0 and won their 10th game in a row against the Clippers. Oh, and before the season started, the Warriors added some guy named Kevin Durant. They again went to the NBA Finals for a third straight year and won a championship. The Clippers, on the other hand, matched up with the Utah Jazz in round 1. Entering Game 3, the series was tied 1-1, and minutes before halftime, Blake Griffin makes a layup and immediately starts limping. The Clippers later revealed that Blake Griffin had suffered a toe injury and would miss the rest of the series. The Clippers ended up falling to the Jazz in 7 games, another season down the drain for the Clippers. In the offseason, the Clippers traded Chris Paul to the Houston Rockets for 7 players, a 2018 top 3 first-round pick, and $661,000. Paul joined James Harden on his quest to get back to the finals and win a championship. The Rockets and Warriors faced each other 3 times that season, and the Rockets won the season series 2-1. They also ended the season winning the most games with a 65-17 record and was first in the Western Conference, while the Warriors finished with a 58-24 record and ended second in the Western Conference. And one of the games provided this viral moment.
Chris Paul doing a great fake laugh.
Both teams easily got past the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, winning each series 4-1. The Rockets took care of the Timberwolves and Jazz, while the Warriors ended the Spurs and Pelican seasons, which led into the Western Conference Finals, another playoff series of Chris Paul facing Steph Curry. Despite being in the league for multiple seasons, this is Paul's first conference final series in his career. Before the series, Houston's general manager Daryl Morey let the world know that the Rockets' goal was always to beat the Warriors.
I mean, it's the only thing we think about. I think I'm not supposed to say that, but I mean, we're basically obsessed with how do we beat the Warriors.
Chris Paul also revealed that the Rockets spent the entire season gearing up for the Warriors.
We played the entire season when I was in Houston one way, basically defensively, and it was basically to get ready for Golden State.
Those years I was in Houston, we played the entire season to get ready for one team, for Golden State. We played the entire season. Our defensive game plan, our offensive game plan, every single game was to get ready for Golden State.
The Rockets got their wish for a matchup, and here's how it played out. In 2015, the Rockets were eliminated in the Western Conference Finals by the hands of the Warriors, so they came into the series looking for revenge. And just like in 2015, tension started early in the series as Draymond got a technical foul minutes into the game.
Technical foul on Draymond Green with the shove to the bearded one's chest. Already James Harden.
At halftime, the 2 teams were tied at 56 points apiece. Almost midway through the 3rd quarter, Chris Paul missed out on a highlight. And eventually, the Warriors went on to build a big lead in the 3rd. And at one point, they held the Rockets to only 2 points in about 5 minutes. Houston would respond with 3 threes to end the 3rd and start the 4th quarter, until Klay Thompson responded with 2 threes of his own.
Thompson from downtown, yes. Klay Thompson.
From there, every time the Rockets went on a run, the Warriors immediately responded with a run of their own, and they eventually won Game 1, 119-106. Durant and Klay led the Warriors with 37 and 28 points. Curry finished with 18 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists. James Harden led the Rockets in scoring, finishing with 41 points and 7 assists, but could not lead a comeback. Chris Paul helped him, finishing with 23 points and 11 assists. The Rockets established an early lead in this game and did not trail at all in the 1st quarter, and they led by 10 points or more most of the 2nd quarter as well. Chris Paul again had Curry touching the ground, and at halftime, the Rockets had a 14-point lead. And from that point on, the Rockets held on to their lead and handily won the game by 22 points and tied up the series. Kevin Durant again played great, finishing with 38 points. And Curry had 16 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists. Durant and Curry were the only 2 players on the Warriors that scored more than 8 points this game. James Harden and Eric Gordon, coming off the bench, led the Rockets in scoring with 27 points each, while Chris Paul finished the game with just 16 points and 6 assists. And just like Game 1 of the series, Draymond would pick up another technical foul.
Ariza is pushed by Draymond Green.
Game 3 started with the Rockets controlling most of the game, but the Warriors went on an 11-0 run and led by 9 points at the end of the 1st quarter. By halftime, the Warriors built their lead to 11 points. In the third quarter, they exploded, going on a 13-0 run led by Steph Curry, who finished the quarter with 18 points on 7 of 7 shooting from the field. He cooked anyone that was defending him. That third quarter run basically cemented the game as the Warriors never looked back. They won by 41 points and took a 2-1 series lead. Curry had his best game of the series, finishing with 35 points and 6 rebounds on 56.5% shooting from the field. Chris Paul, meanwhile, struggled, finishing with just 13 points and 10 rebounds on 5 of 16 shooting from the field. And just like the other game, Draymond and Trevor Ariza again had their moment.
Draymond Green called for the hold on Trevor Ariza. Oh, and they have words and some shoving.
Game 4 was basically a seesaw match. The Warriors started on a 12-0 run and outscored the Rockets by 9 points in the first quarter. Then the Rockets went on a 16-2 run and outscored the Warriors by 16 in the second quarter. Then the Warriors went on an 18-2 run and outscored the Rockets in the third quarter by 17, giving the Warriors a 10-point lead going into the fourth quarter. Midway through the fourth, the Rockets fought back and took the lead, as the Warriors went the entire quarter without making a three-pointer. With a chance to bring the game to one possession, Draymond Green misses a free throw and gives James Harden the opportunity to extend their lead. He shoots a step-back jumper with over 13 seconds left and misses. The Warriors have a chance to take the lead in the game and take a commanding 3-1 lead in the series, and this was a shot they got.
Here's Thompson for the tie. Tucker.
Chris Paul celebrates the victory, not knowing the officials have called a foul with 0.5 left on the clock. Paul shoots his first free throws and misses, and he hits the second one, and the Warriors call timeout. With half a second left on the clock, Steph Curry has the perfect opening to tie the game and send it to overtime.
It inbounds. Here's Curry. This is for the tie.
And he doesn't get it to fall. The Rockets end the Warriors' NBA record of 16 straight home wins in the playoffs and even up the series. James Harden and Chris Paul led the Rockets with 30 and 27 points, while Curry and Durant led the Warriors with 27 and 28 points. Game 5 was even in the first half, with the score being tied 45-45. And the same thing goes for the majority of the third quarter. Here, Chris Paul would get his revenge on Curry from his shimmy from Game 3.
The first one, and a deep three-pointer by Chris Paul. He's at 3 threes.
At the start of the fourth, Houston would have a 5-point lead. And with a 3-point lead, Chris Paul tries to make a floater in the paint and gets rejected by Durant. The next possession, Draymond Green scores and makes it a 1-point game. James Harden comes down, puts Curry on skates, and finds a wide open Eric Gordon for 3. The Warriors call timeout as the Rockets go up 4. Out of the timeout, Draymond Green answers Eric Gordon's bucket, and the next possession changed the entire series. Chris Paul drives in on Quinn Cook, spins, and puts up a floater while falling. And unfortunately, he doesn't get back up. Paul suffered a strained right hamstring and missed the rest of the series. The Warriors aren't able to score the rest of the game, and despite Paul's absence, the Rockets take a 3-2 lead in the series. Eric Gordon led the Rockets with 24 points, while Chris Paul finished with 20 points and 7 rebounds and 6 assists. KD led the Warriors with 29 points, while Steph had 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists. Game 6 started off with the Rockets taking a 39-22 lead in the first quarter. With the game in their hands, they're firmly on their way to the NBA Finals, and they lost by 30. The Warriors ended the final 3 quarters outscoring the Rockets 93-47. Harden led the Rockets with 32 points, 7 rebounds, and 9 assists, and he also had a playoff high that postseason of 9 turnovers. Game 6, Klay led the Warriors with 35 points and 9 3-pointers made, and Curry added 29 points as well. Game 7 was historic. The Rockets, still without Chris Paul, had a 15-point lead at one point in the first half and made it to halftime with an 11-point lead. Midway through the third quarter, the Warriors went on an 8-1 run and closed the lead down to 4 points. A couple possessions later, we'd have a tie game. And 2 possessions later, Golden State takes the lead and never looks back. They proceeded to win the game 101-92 and reached their 4th straight finals appearance. One of the factors for the loss for the Rockets was that they ended up missing 27 straight 3-point attempts in a row. From 6:43 in the second quarter to 6:28 in the fourth quarter, the Rockets did not make a single 3-point attempt. They ended the game as a team only making 7 of 44 3-point attempts, 15.9% shooting from the field, the 3rd worst 3-point percentage by a team in the playoffs since 2016. Harden led the Rockets with 32 points, while Durant led the Warriors with 34 points. Curry added 27 points, 9 rebounds, and 10 assists on his way to his 4th straight finals appearance. In the finals, the Warriors dominated the Cavs as they swept the series 4-0. Curry wins his 3rd championship while all Chris Paul could do was watch. A couple months into the offseason, Chris Paul again faced Steph Curry on, you guessed it, on Celebrity Family Feud. And even on a game show, Chris Paul still couldn't get the best of Curry, as he and his team advanced to the fast money round and eventually win the game. Another season goes by for the Rockets as they won the regular season series against the Warriors 3-1. But the Warriors ended the season as the #1 seed with a 57-25 record, and the Rockets ended as the 4th seed with a 53-29 record. Entering the playoffs, the Rockets would easily take care of the 5th-seeded Utah Jazz in round 1, winning the series 4-1, while the Warriors took care of the 8th-seed Clippers, winning that series 4-2, which sets up a round 2 rematch of the Golden State Warriors against the Houston Rockets, the 3rd playoff series between Chris Paul and Steph Curry. Throughout the offseason and regular season, the talk about last year's playoffs was that had Chris Paul not gotten injured, the Houston Rockets would have beaten the Warriors and advanced to the NBA Finals.
Clearly, they were lucky. Now, the Rockets are top-heavy, right? They have 2 superstars, CP3 and Harden, and CP3 can't play. So they're lucky right away.
And it sucks because you know you could win this series if we just had one more playmaker, just than Chris. If he was out there, we would have been playing on Thursday.
Here, the Rockets now had their chance to get payback and eliminate the Warriors from the playoffs. This game was close the whole way through the first 3 quarters. In the 4th quarter, with a 5-point lead with under a minute left, James Harden makes a tough bucket with the foul and makes it a 2-point game. The next possession down, Curry regains their 5-point lead and the Rockets call timeout. Out of the Rockets timeout, Harden gets a free dunk, which causes the Warriors to call timeout. And out of it, Kevin Durant turns the ball over and the Rockets have a chance to tie. And Harden takes a step back 3.
Off. Harden steps back, puts up a 3.
He doesn't get it to go, but Chris Paul rebounds it and gives it to Eric Gordon, who was out of bounds. Chris Paul is livid and yells at the officials and gets his 2nd technical foul, which is an automatic ejection, and the Warriors go on to win 104-100. The conversation after this game was the calls the Rockets didn't get on 3-point closeouts. Chris Paul was given his 1st technical foul in the 3rd quarter after taunting the refs after a no call, and here's what James Harden had to say post-game.
I was told the same thing at half, and there's probably a couple more in that 2nd half. I mean, I just want a fair chance, man. Call the game how it's supposed to be called, and that's it. And I'll live with the results.
Durant led the Warriors with 35 points, with Curry finishing with 18 points and 7 rebounds and 4 assists. And Chris Paul finished the game with 17 points, but James Harden led the team with 35. The Warriors went up early in this game, but it wasn't a smooth sailing as Curry would have to leave in the 1st quarter after dislocating his finger. He would though return in a couple minutes. James Harden got hit in the eye halfway through the 1st quarter and didn't return until 9 minutes left in the 2nd quarter. His eyes were visibly teary and red, and after the game, Harden said he could barely see.
Sure. I can barely see, but
in the 3rd quarter, the Warriors got up big, as much as 15 points, but they only entered the 4th quarter with a 7-point lead. The Rockets tried making a comeback, making it a 3-point game with over 7 minutes left to play, but the Warriors built back their lead back to double digits and effectively ended the game there. The Warriors went on to win 115-109 and take a 2-0 series lead. All the Warriors starters finished with double-digit points, with Kevin Durant leading them with 29, while Curry contributed 20. And all the Rockets starters finished with double-digit points as well, led by James Harden with 29, while Chris Paul added 18. Unlike games 1 and 2, the Rockets led most of game 3, until early in the 4th quarter, where the Rockets entered with a 7-point lead that evaporated in 2 minutes thanks to 10 straight points made by Kevin Durant. From there, the two teams were trading baskets. The game was tied with 22 seconds remaining, with the Warriors having a chance to take the lead late. Kevin Durant takes a pull-up jumper and doesn't get it to fall. Now the Rockets have 15 seconds to take the lead and end the game. Chris Paul drives to the basket, and Klay Thompson is able to get his hands on the ball, which turns it into the jump ball with 1.5 seconds remaining. Chris Paul wins the tip, but the time expires, and the game goes to overtime. The teams again traded baskets with each other, until Harden hits a dagger.
Harden, step back 3, bang!
The Rockets win 126-121, and at minimum force a game 5. Kevin Durant scored a game-high 46 points, while Curry struggled, finishing with just 17 points on 7 of 23 shooting from the field. James Harden finished with 41 points as well, and Eric Gordon added 30 himself. Chris Paul ended with just 14 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists. The night before Game 4, Steph Curry booked the Rockets arena from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. to get some shots up. Curry the game prior shot 7 for 23 from the field and 1 of 3 from the free throw line. But somehow, Chris Paul found out about this and went to the arena just to prevent Curry from getting his shots up. Reports say that Curry and the Warriors were offering Paul to share half of the court, but Chris Paul wasn't having any of it, and Curry and his group were kicked off the floor. Game 4 was close all throughout the first half, until the Rockets went on a 13-2 run midway through the second quarter. They entered the half with a 7-point lead. From there, the Rockets controlled the game and built the lead to 17 points at one point, but Golden State slowly crawled back into the game near the end of the fourth quarter. It would be a 5-point game with more than a minute 30 remaining. The two teams would miss their next shot attempts until the Warriors would hit a 3 to cut the lead to 2 points with under 20 seconds remaining. They foul James Harden and he hits one of his 2 free throws. The Warriors now have 2 chances to tie the game.
Curry for the tie! No!
And they miss both. Chris Paul makes both free throws at the end to seal the game. The series is now tied 2 games apiece. The Warriors got up early thanks to the 21-5 run they went on to finish the first quarter. The Rockets would close the gap down to 3 points thanks to a 10-0 run they'd go on midway through the quarter, but the Warriors would build their lead back to 14 points by the end of the half. The Rockets again crawled back into the game and cut the lead down to 1 point. With over 2 minutes left in the third quarter, Kevin Durant hits a jumper and would start limping. Durant suffered a strained right calf and did not return to the game. Shortly after Durant's exit, the Rockets would get their first lead of the game since the first quarter, and the third quarter ends with the score being tied 72-72. The two teams would trade buckets until the Warriors hit back-to-back threes to take an 8-point lead, but the Rockets again cut the lead back down to 3 and had an opportunity to gain possession, but they fumbled it and the Warriors scored and end the game. Klay Thompson led the Warriors with 27 points, and Curry finished with 25 points, 6 rebounds and 5 assists, and 9 threes made. James Harden had the game-high 31 points along with 8 assists and 4 steals, and Chris Paul had a terrible shooting night, finishing with just 11 points on 3 of 14 shooting from the field, but he also had 6 rebounds and 6 assists. With Durant ruled out for Game 6, the Rockets had the same luck the Warriors had last year with Chris Paul getting injured. And like the previous games, Game 6 was close the whole way through. But this time, it felt different for the Warriors. With Durant out, Steph Curry went the entire half scoreless for the first time in his career in a playoff game. Yet at halftime, the score was tied 57-57. Surprisingly, the Warriors, without their 2 top scorers contributing any actual points, were still in the game. In the third quarter, Curry would get on the score sheet, finishing the quarter with 10 points, and the Rockets would take a 5-point lead entering the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, the two teams kept it close. They went nearly 3 minutes in the game without scoring a single point, with the game tied at 97 apiece. This was until Looney made a basket to give the Warriors a lead. From there, Curry hit all his shots to put the Warriors back in winning position.
Right with him. Curry launches a 3. Puts it in again!
The Rockets continue to hit threes late, but Steph Curry shoots perfect from the free throw line to ice the game. The Warriors win the series and are headed back to the Western Conference Finals. They'd beat the Rockets in the playoffs for the 4th time in 5 seasons. James Harden tried his best, scoring 35 points, while Chris Paul also tried, finishing with 27 points and 11 rebounds. But Curry led the Warriors to this victory with 33 points and 23 points in the fourth quarter alone, and Klay Thompson added 27 points. After the game, Curry yelled, "Kick me off the court again," while Draymond yelled, "Kick him off," remembering what Chris Paul did to him in the same exact building just a few days prior.
Kick me off the court again, boy. Come on. Kick him off.
The Warriors went on to sweep the Portland Trailblazers in the conference finals without Durant, and Curry dominated the entire series on his way to his 5th straight finals appearance, averaging 36.5 points per game, 8.3 rebounds per game, and 7.3 assists in the 4-game series. The Warriors would face the Toronto Raptors in the finals. Durant would miss the first 4 games of the finals, with the Warriors being down 3-1 in the series, and he made his return in Game 5. 2 minutes into the second quarter, Durant goes down with an Achilles tendon injury and would be out for the rest of the series and the next season with the Brooklyn Nets. Before his injury, he had 11 points and was 3 of 3 from three-point land in just 12 minutes. In Game 6 of the series, Klay Thompson would tore his ACL and would miss the rest of the game. The Warriors went on to lose the series, with Curry averaging 30.5 points per game, 5.2 rebounds per game, and 6 assists throughout the 6 games. In the offseason, there were reports that the relationship between Chris Paul and James Harden was irreparable. And soon enough, the Houston Rockets would trade Chris Paul and multiple first-round picks to the Oklahoma City Thunder for Russell Westbrook. With the trading of Paul George to the Clippers just a few days earlier, the Thunder were officially gearing up for a rebuild. Despite being in rebuild mode, Chris Paul made a difference in the organization. ESPN said the Thunder had less than a 1% chance of making the playoffs that season, but Chris Paul led them to the 5th seed and a first-round matchup with the Houston Rockets in the playoffs. They lost that series in 7 games, but Paul was named an All-Star for that season for the first time since 2016 and helped the Thunder achieve way above expectations. With the Warriors, Klay Thompson missed the entire season due to an ACL tear, and Curry only played 5 of the 65 games due to a broken metal carpal. Later down the line, Chris Paul revealed that he actually recommended his hand surgeon to Curry during this time, showing that their relationship was still there, even just a bit during the playoff matchups.
And tried to get with Mo, the same person I'd had 4 hand surgeries.
I met Mo. I feel like he used Mo, right?
Yeah.
He ended up using Mo.
Yep, he ended up using Mo.
Okay.
So Mo did all 4 of my hand surgeries and my rehabs.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And that's just...
The Warriors ended the season with the worst record in the NBA and did not qualify for the playoffs that year. Chris Paul and Curry did play against each other that season, but the Warriors would get blown out in a 120-92 loss. Curry finished that game with a game-high 23 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists, while Chris Paul scored just 10 points. On February 26, 2020, in an interview, Chris Paul was asked to build his perfect point guard, and fans noticed that there was never a mention of Steph Curry when it came to shooting. Curry is widely regarded as the greatest shooter in NBA history, so leaving him off this list was definitely notable by the basketball community. In the short offseason, the Thunder would trade Chris Paul to the Phoenix Suns for 4 players and a first-round pick. Paul would join a scorching hot Suns team that just went 8-0 in the bubble. To start the 2021 season, the Golden State Warriors suffered even more bad news, as Klay Thompson would be expected to miss a second straight entire season due to an Achilles tendon injury. Curry would carry the Warriors throughout the regular season. He came 3rd in MVP voting and went on to win his 2nd scoring title, ending the year averaging 32 points per game. The Warriors ended as the 8th seed in the West and lost both playing games to the Lakers and Grizzlies and didn't qualify for the playoffs that season. Chris Paul, on the other hand, helped the Suns to their best regular season record since 2010, 51 wins, 21 losses. The Suns made their first playoff appearance since 2010 as well. Paul was huge to the Suns as they went on to reach the NBA Finals, the first of Paul's 16-year career at the time. But before reaching the Finals, he had an injury to deal with in round 1. In the closing game to win the Western Conference Finals, Paul had 41 points and 8 assists against his former team. And with all the injuries and misfortune in Paul's career, he finally had a chance to win a championship. After going up 2-0 against the Milwaukee Bucks, the Suns went on to lose the next 4 games, and Paul will fail to win a championship on the biggest stage in basketball. The Suns, though, did win the season series against the Warriors 2-1, but Paul and Curry only matched up twice that year. Curry would score 27 points in their first matchup to Paul's 13. In their second matchup, Paul would score 24 points with 10 assists to Curry's 21 points. In 2022, the Phoenix Suns came back more motivated and looked better than the previous season, finishing with a 64-18 record and was first in the Western Conference. The Warriors too were motivated. With the return of Klay Thompson and the emergence of Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins, the Warriors finished with a 53-29 record and was 3rd in the Western Conference. The Suns won a hard series against a young New Orleans Pelicans team, 4-2, where Chris Paul dominated in Game 6 to win the series, finishing the game perfect, 33 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists on 14 of 14 shooting, and 4 of 4 from the free throw line. The next series against the Dallas Mavericks will go down to the wire to a Game 7, where Phoenix would get absolutely embarrassed by Luka Doncic and the rest of the team. Chris Paul's team again had underachieved in the playoffs. The Warriors, on the other hand, won their most memorable championship, beating Denver in round 1, Memphis in round 2, and the Mavericks in round 3. They went on to beat the Boston Celtics in the finals on the back of Steph Curry, who won his 4th championship and his first finals MVP. That season, the Suns and Warriors split the season series 2-2, with Curry and Paul playing against each other in 3 of those matchups. In 2023, the rivalry isn't as big and hot as it once was in the past, due to Chris Paul no longer being in his primes, and the achievements and accolades Curry had reached simply put him in a different stratosphere than Paul, making the matchup very lopsided. But in one of their matchups in the season, on March 13th, Curry drove right through Paul before hitting a tough bucket with a foul, and the cameras caught him saying, "This ain't 2014 no more," obviously hinting how Paul was consistently getting the best of Curry back in those days, but now it's Curry consistently getting the best of Paul.
Steph, the camera captured you saying, this ain't 2014 anymore after you scored on Chris. Was that just a message just to let him know that it's a different time, or?
It's all competition. You play against somebody for so many years, and the love I got for him because our history and all that. So it's just competition, back and forth. Give it and take it.
Midway through the season, the Suns made the biggest trade at the deadline. Kevin Durant had joined the team. Along with Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and Chris Paul, the Suns were shot up to the top of being the favorites to win the season's championship. Phoenix finished with a 45-37 record and were the 4th seed. They took on a short-handed Clippers in round 1 and won the series 4-1. In round 2, they faced off against the Denver Nuggets, and Paul again would suffer another playoff injury in Game 2 and eventually missed the rest of the postseason. The Suns lost in embarrassing fashion in Game 6 to the Nuggets and were eliminated in the playoffs. The Warriors finished as a 6th seed with a 44-38 record and faced off against the Sacramento Kings in round 1. The series went the distance to 7 games, where Curry carried the Warriors to a win, scoring an NBA Game 7 record at the time, 50 points on 53% shooting from the field. No other player on the Warriors had more than 17 points scored that game. In round 2, they faced off against the Los Angeles Lakers, where they went on to lose in 6 games. For the first time since 2014, the Warriors had lost a playoff series that wasn't in the finals. LeBron James was able to beat Curry in the playoffs for the first time since 2016. The Suns won the season matchup against the Warriors 3-1. Even with Curry scoring 50 points in one of those matchups, the Suns proved they were a better team than the Warriors that season. In the offseason, on June 18th, the Phoenix Suns again made a big move. They traded Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, and several second-round picks and a pick swaps to the Washington Wizards to acquire Bradley Beal. Chris Paul again found himself in a rebuilding situation against his will, until 4 days later, where the Warriors made a surprise move, trading their young player Jordan Poole, along with a protected 2030 first-round pick and a 2027 second-round pick for Chris Paul. Chris Paul joined the team that he spent years trying to defeat, and now he's teammates with the guy that he had a direct rivalry with at the point guard position, and another player that has openly admitted how much he despises him. Today, Chris Paul is playing in his 19th season in the NBA with the Golden State Warriors. He's currently averaging career lows simply because he's not needed to carry the load of the work, especially with Curry in his 15th season showing he's still in his prime. Only time will tell whether these two and the rest of the team can pull it together and win a championship still remains to be seen. But these two players that had a fierce rivalry, now working towards a common goal, is something that basketball fans never expected to see.